story number 6, we're going to go to Mr. Fakler, John Fakler. This is a piece that's coming out of the Florida Bulldog. This publication that's it's headed by Dan Christensen, a longtime journalist down here, investigative reporter. The piece is actually written by a guy called Bob Norman. Anybody knows the longtime journalist down here, Bob Norman? He actually wrote this piece. And Mr. Fakler, before I read you the headline in the first couple graphs, let me just tell you, we're recording this podcast on a Tuesday. This is actually the day that the founder of FTX, which is a Bitcoin exchange, a cryptocurrency exchange, FTX also had its name on the American Airlines Arena. American Airlines Arena, where the Miami Heat plays, became the FTX Arena. It's now called the Kaseya Center. This is a day of the beginning of his trial for a variety of different topics related to some sort of financial indiscretions, if you will. So that's sort of the backdrop, Mr. Fakler. Before I read you the headline, first couple graphs coming out of the Florida Bulldog. Here we go. Key co-conspirator in billion-dollar Rothstein Ponzi scheme, now a public official in South Florida. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, last go around when the real estate market crashed down here in South Florida, there were 2 major Ponzi schemes. One got taken down in Broward County. One got taken down in Miami-Dade County. The one in Broward County, where Fort Lauderdale was, that one was called the Rothstein Ponzi scheme. It had to do with a factoring company, a law firm that was basically selling rights to factoring contracts that were out there. So I'm going to continue on, Mr. Fakler, and I want you to provide some insight. So as I said with the headline, key co-conspirator in billion-dollar Rothstein Ponzi scheme, now a public official in South Florida. First couple graphs. As an appointed member of Surfside's Planning and Zoning Board, anybody doesn't remember, Surfside is a city where the tower collapsed, the Champlain Tower South. It's located between just north of Miami Beach and just south of Bell Harbor in Sunny Isles Beach on the Barrier Island in Miami-Dade County. As an appointed member of Surfside's Planning and Zoning Board, Michael Zalewski is trusted to pass judgment on some of the most important issues involving the town. And as head of Florida acquisitions for the Kushner companies, Zalewski makes decisions involving hundreds of $millions worth of developments for former first son-in-law Jared Kushner family business. Story goes on to say, we're very proud to have Michael Kushner CEO Laurent Morali told the Florida Bulldog. He does a great job for our company. We regard him as one of the most brilliant people in the industry. That's kind of how we feel about Michael. But what about Zalewski's notorious past as the convicted felon involved with the largest Ponzi scheme in Florida's history? And then we have a quote coming from Morelli, who is the CEO of Kushner's development company. Anyone who makes a mistake, they pay a price, Morelli said. They get sentenced. They go out of prison, and once they get out, they start from scratch. I believe in the good of people. However, the answer doesn't cut it with former Surfside Commissioner Elena Salhauser, beginning with Morelli's use of the word mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a continuous fraud, said the former commissioner. It was a deliberate fraud that was perpetuated, and had he never been caught, he never would have been sorry for what he was continuing to do. Mr. Fakler, what do you make of the fact that this gentleman who got taken down roughly a little bit over a decade ago during the Great Recession, which followed a tremendous run up in real estate prices, is now sitting on a planning advisory board for the city of Surfside, which made international headlines when a tower collapsed? There were 100 people died and $1 billion settlement was put out, and the federal government or a federal agency is now investigating how this tower could simply collapse. What do you make of the fact that we got a convicted felon sitting on that planning and zoning board, according to the Florida Bulldog?
Well, first, I wanted to welcome our viewers to Fraud Heaven. Welcome. Here's what I don't understand, and really it goes to the heart of your question. If you're filling out an application to work at McDonald's, one of the first questions they ask you is, do you have a criminal history? Right? I mean, it's very common. It's on all job applications, no matter how low or high. How is it even possible that he was brought on, with a criminal history for a position like that that's so sensitive, particularly the fact that he, it's on this site where the building collapsed, all these people died, and he gets his particular position as well as a voting position. So he actually has control over the votes on this. Now, ultimately this passed. It was approved, this particular high rise. So, I just don't understand it. I mean, the one common thread I could think about through this whole story he among the investors he scammed included temple members, the members of the temple. I don't have the name in front of me of the temple he belonged to. And it's funny because the reporter went back to them and said, how, what do you think about this? And they were like all forgiving, like, oh, it wasn't a big deal, even though they got scammed out of God knows how much money. But, the common thread here is that, by the way, this temple, the Kushners, meaning the president's daughter and son-in-law,
Former
also belong to
president.
this.
Former president,
Excuse me. They also belong to this temple. So, that's one common thread through this. I'm just wondering, was there some glad handing going on? I'm not making any allegations, but how is it that he was able to sort of sneak into this position? And yet, the first thing you think about is all its connections to the Kushners. And obviously he's got the top job, I believe, as far as the on the real estate side of the Florida Kushner company. So he's, he literally runs the Florida operation. So, I just
let me add a little bit more insight, and then I'll ask any of you to comment. So, according to the story, kept secret was the fact that Rothstein, and this is a gentleman who's running the Ponzi scheme, the Rothstein Ponzi scheme, he was selling legal settlements to mostly wealthy investors, including shady New York hedge funds. He promised large returns on the investments that he paid out until the money ran out in November of 2009. Rothstein then fled to Morocco with the last $17 million, but then returned to surrender to the FBI and cooperate with federal prosecutors. He explained that all the settlement agreements he sold and what was a $1.2 billion with a billion dollar Ponzi scheme was all fake. He and 28 co-defendants, including Zalewski, would all be sentenced to prison. In the case, Rothstein himself, 50 years in prison. Mr. Fakler, Jean, or Lidia, the guy went to prison. He spent his time. People ought to have a second chance. The question is not that they get a second chance. The question is, should a gentleman like this be put in a position where he can make decisions on which building go forward and which buildings don't, especially given what's recently happened down here in South Florida in terms of politicians, elected officials, and accusations by local, state, and federal bodies that maybe there's a little quid pro quo going on in terms of, we'll do this if you pay us that. What say any or all of you?
In terms of quid pro quo and my opinions on that, I'm going to steer clear of that since we are reporting on the Mac project on the site and so on. I guess like the first questions that pop into my head when I read this is, honestly, I'm wondering what is the town's application process to vet somebody who is applying for a volunteer position on the planning and zoning board. And then I'm wondering what the town administrators and elected officials to talk about after they saw the story run. Was there any reaction? Because A, it could have been an omission and they just don't have appropriate vetting processes that look at these things. And B, even if that's the case, are they taking any steps to address this issue or discuss this issue? Or is it just going to be something that you just kind of like ignore and continue, which would be exactly, if that happens, when it would definitely raise more questions and look a little bit more suspicious.
Lily makes a great point. There should be a process. I guess my point is that there should be a process in place for hiring like this. And now they're going to have to go back and sort of, answer the questions and do it the appropriate way. Whereas, here it looks like it was a major oversight as far as the hiring process.
Well, it was an appointment process, Mr. Fakler.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Appointment to the Surfside, but it was a hiring by the private sector company.
Exactly.
John, any thoughts, any comments?
I mean, this is such a Florida story.
Absolutely.
Only in Florida would this kind of stuff happen.
Only in Florida.
It's almost not shocking.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.